I do think that the way that people end up playing small is by not paying attention to their own needs, their own wants, their own desires, losing track of those, not giving themselves permission to even name them from themselves. They will then dim their own light and they will defer to what somebody else wants or needs. And that's, I think, what ends up happening a lot with women in general. It's, oh, I don't know what I want. What do you want?
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women! My next guest is a certified professional coach. She helps people take the courageous steps to identify their limiting beliefs, their reasons for their stagnation or feelings of not enoughness, so they can have what they want professionally and personally to live a fulfilled life. She is the creator of AuthenticMe and CEO of Live Joy Your Way, a coaching company helping high performers who have seen success through old-rooted traditional metrics reestablish their relational self-awareness, meaning she helps them understand how they think, what beliefs might be holding them back so they can really come home to joy, fulfillment, and a newly defined definition of success. Please welcome the incredible Kamani Wood.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. I didn't realize you had so many children.
I do. I have 5. And when I say that to people, they're like, oh my gosh, you have 5. Caveat to that is they're not all little. My oldest is a 21-year-old ballet dancer in New York. I have an 18-year-old. He's actually playing Division I lacrosse right now as a freshman studying psychology. 16-year-old, 13-year-old, and 9-year-old. So they're not all little.
Where are you located?
I am based in North Carolina.
So did you know that lacrosse is the official sport of Canada?
Yes.
And most people are like, yes, it's hockey. I'm like, no, strangely enough, it's lacrosse.
It's lacrosse. And the players that come out of Canada are amazing. And I know this because, of course, my son was being recruited against a lot of Canadian players. So
cool. Well, he made the cut. Amazing.
He made the cut.
And for those that can't see Kamini's face, is you wouldn't know that you'd have a 21-year-old, let alone 4 other offspring. So that's amazing. I love it. I just spent a weekend at Camp Tailwind that is run by my incredible friend, Alexis Dean. And I was amongst about 100 other female entrepreneurs. And I would say the average, so if you take away the anomaly of people that have like 1,000 kids and people that don't have any children at all, the average number of children is like 3. And I'm like, whoa, this is like a thing now.
Yeah, it is. It
used
is.
To be 2 kids.
2.
Yeah.
2 is it. Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone has 3. And I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit late on that. But anyways, some quick questions for you. I'd love to know, where are you from?
So I'm originally from Connecticut, but as I mentioned, we live in North Carolina now.
Cool. Are you guys having like a hurricane right now, or is that done?
No, the hurricane is going to hit Florida and supposedly this in a couple days. And then we're going to get it this weekend, which is somewhat unfortunate because I'm supposed to be flying out to go watch my daughter perform in New York. So I'm just fingers crossed that maybe it's not so bad.
Maybe you can leave early.
That's the new talk between my husband and I, is whether we hop on an earlier flight.
Yeah. Just after this recording, just
head up.
I give you permission.
Thank you.
So what was the toughest moment you had when facing anything in business as an entrepreneur?
I'll be totally honest. The toughest thing that I faced was my own self-doubt. Was, can I actually do this? Because the truth is, once I was able to become aware of that and to start moving through that, that's when things opened up for me. if I had sort of let that inner critic run the show, I don't think I'd be where I am today.
Right? You'd have like 2 thumbs down at every stage.
Every stage. And I probably would have just stopped. And part of it is because my story was to be in the background. I ran my husband's law firm for 15 years. And so he was the face and I was behind the scenes. So my story was be behind the scenes. So I would have probably just run right back to that. And really what this was me stepping into my own power, my own identity and saying, no, I'm actually meant to do the work that I'm doing. And so overcoming that self-doubt was truly the hardest thing and also the greatest thing that I was able to do.
When did you start your business?
So my coaching practice has been up and running for about 6 years.
Okay.
And then when I say coaching business and practice, I say it in that way because I feel like I did it before, but in the context of, doing kind of human resources at my husband's firm. But my practice, my business, the me in it was about 6 years ago.
Yeah, we talk about how all of the experiences and journeys in our life got us to this moment right now. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, if you're happy or excited about this moment or even the next, it's because you need to live those things. You needed to have the 15 years in your husband's law practice to be able to be this person that you are today.
Yes, absolutely.
So what is your favorite quote?
So you and I chatted about this a little bit before. I have so many, but one that really gets me is by Rumi. And it's the quote, "The quieter you become, the more you're able to hear." And that's really important to me because mental chatter can get you. And so the quieter we give ourselves permission to be, the more we're actually able to hear.
So that eventually we can roar as loud as possible.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I was like, where is this going? Because we talked about how, women tend to we talk about stifling our own dreams and goals. And most of the time, especially as mothers, because we want to put everyone else on a pedestal. So I love that perspective too. And if you think about the moments in a day where you navigate everything from making your kids lunch, driving them to school, to showing up before a podcast recording, what are all these things that go through your head? I don't know about you, but for me, it's I always ask myself, how can I get out of this? That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
Even before this podcast, it's it wasn't exactly at 10 a.m. that you showed up. It was 10:01. I was like, oh, she forgot. Okay, cool. On to the next thing. Great. I'm out of this commitment.
Right.
It's my self-doubt. So where does it show up for you in your life?
I love what you just shared because I can totally relate to that. I have had moments where I do the same thing where I'm like, oh, it's, 1 minute past. They're not coming. I can get out of this now. But it's true. I think so. And that's why I said that the hardest thing I've had to overcome, and maybe it's not even that I've overcome it, but I've learned to almost befriend it. But it is that self-doubt because it does show up in various aspects of every day, where it could be in mothering, for instance. Am I doing this the right way? If I make this choice, is that going to be quote unquote the right choice? If I make this decision in terms of business, if I make this decision in business, is that going to be the right one? And so often we're trying to get it right. But what if we just give ourselves permission to trust ourselves and know that no matter what happens, we can trust that we're going to show up, much like when we quote unquote make the wrong decision with our child. We show up and we work through whatever comes up. We don't just stop.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what exactly that you do and then how you see this show up in a lot of people you work with.
So specifically what I do is I work with people one-to-one. So it's just me and this other person. We talk through the limiting beliefs, the mindsets, the narratives that are holding us back in terms of moving forward. So a lot of individuals that I work with are high-achieving women who have these goals for themselves, but for some reason they feel either scared or stagnant or stuck. And most often it's because of these stories that we've told ourselves, the narratives that we've either grown up with or that we've accumulated over the years of just experiences. Sometimes it's big traumas. Sometimes it's just experiences that we've internalized to mean something about ourselves. So truly what I end up seeing many times is with the individuals that I work with are the false beliefs of I'm not good enough. I am not lovable. I'm not worthy. I'm not capable. I don't belong. Those are the real key ones that lead to this idea of imposter syndrome that keep us from being able to move forward. Especially as an entrepreneur, those are the ones that can keep us stagnant, paralyzed, and just sometimes give up. Just to not move forward. And so it's about bringing those things to the awareness, not to shame ourselves, but to do the very opposite, to bring it to the awareness and to say, wow, that's here, that's present for me. And is that actually true? Are those beliefs actually true? Or are they coming from a story I have told myself or I've internalized as true? And recognize that we have the ability to shift that story.
Yes, that's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you. But you answered it. So thank you.
I try.
Yeah. And these things, like we talk about traumas, like we navigate our days based on like those stories that we tell ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right. And like perfect example, this morning I dropped my boys off. We had to like reverse our schedule of drop-offs because one of the kids had to be at school earlier. And I was like, my intention was like, I had to be physically ready, like makeup, hair for this interview before 9 a.m. Because the night before I was like, oh, if I did that, then I would be able to crush the day because my recording's at 10 a.m. PST. But I didn't get my makeup done. Everything else is ready. And I was like driving my boys to school, of which we were 5 minutes late. Again, like ashamed on that for myself, internal shame. Mm-hmm. But I was like, why couldn't I just put my makeup on? And it didn't change anything in the day. Mm-hmm. But it was like the stories that went through my head are, I'm unorganized, I'm lazy, I'm always late. Like, it's so silly. It really, like, you wouldn't have noticed, even if I didn't have makeup on, it wouldn't have changed anything for you or the people that can only hear me right now. So like, that's just one example, but think about that. Like if the listeners can just reflect on the things, even listening to this episode right now, if you're out for a walk, you're driving in your car or you're laying into bed, taking an afternoon time out, it's like, what are the stories that are going through your head right now that are either stopping you from doing something or forcing you from doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing?
Mm-hmm. And what I love about what you just were talking about was it's the stories we tell ourselves and then we dial it down. Right? We dial it down. Okay, I don't have my makeup on. So what does that mean about me? Well, it means I'm lazy. Okay, so what does that mean about me? If you're lazy, what's that in translation? Well, eventually we get to, I'm not good enough. So really that's what we're up against. It's like, oh my gosh, that's really mean. Like I'm telling myself I'm not good enough. All because I didn't have time to put my makeup on.
Yeah. Wow.
Makeup.
It sounds so silly when you say it like that.
But it's not silly. It's like, oh my gosh, I can change that story. Right? I give myself permission to change it.
And how would you suggest I change that? So just based on that little scenario.
Well, we challenge it. We start asking ourselves, is it true that I'm not good enough because I didn't put my makeup on at 7:00 in the morning? Mm-hmm. And the answer is no. I just didn't put my makeup on. That my makeup has nothing to do with my value system, my gifts as a person, my essence. It's makeup. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah. And now we have distance between it. And now we recognize, wow, I was equating with not getting up early enough to put my makeup on with, am I good enough? Myself has nothing to do with whether or not I'm wearing makeup. We can challenge it because now we have space between the two thoughts.
I love that. Oh, he got me thinking about all the things in a day. That it's like, I slow myself down. I stop myself. Like another example is one of my clients is coming over this afternoon for a 2-hour content brainstorming session. Mm-hmm. And it's like, the house is a mess. And one of my boys has to be home early today because it's parent-teacher interviews. So school's out early. And all of these things were stacked up against why she shouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. I know she's not going to care, right? And like at the end of the day, if it's really sucks, we can just pack our bags and go to a coffee shop. But then like women put all this pressure on making sure the house is clean and tidy and the kids are quiet and reserved. But who cares? That's not reality, right?
Yes. Yes. It's not reality. It kind of, when you just said that, it makes me internally chuckle because I used to be the one who'd like try to straighten up before the cleaning person came to the house. It's like, oh, I need to straighten up. And eventually I was like, wait, what is this about? Am I trying to, like the cleaning lady knows, like she knows that I'm a mess and it's okay. Like, that's why we use her services. It's okay.
I remember growing up in a household where we used to have to tidy the house very well before the cleaning lady showed up. My mom had a good justification for this. She's like, well, if there's nothing lying around, then she can vacuum and wash the floors faster. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, don't have Legos everywhere. But there's still part of it. It's like, why am I washing the windows before the cleaning lady shows up?
Right.
What is this saying about me? It's her job to do this or his job to do this.
Right. It's part of the economy system, right? Like we are offering that ability to take on that job so that they can also have their own business and run. So it's all the trade-offs. I'm actually taking away her ability or his ability to run their own business by stepping in. And I don't know, it's an interesting way to look at it, right? Where we're like, wait, hold on a minute. By me overcompensating here, I'm actually taking away someone else's autonomy.
Yes. And this is a perfect example of in business, why a lot of female leaders, they don't delegate well because there's this guilt of asking somebody to do something for them, but really it's their job to do it. And when this happens, it creates this discrepancy between the person who should be doing the work. And all of a sudden they think, oh, the boss doesn't trust me in doing this because she's taking it upon herself. And the boss overworking herself or the leader overworking herself because she's too guilty to delegate or just negligent in delegating. And so all of a sudden now it's like the woman who's afraid and shameful to give somebody else a chore that they're supposed to do or a task they're supposed to do versus the person who knows they should be doing that work and they're not. Mm-hmm. And so the worst thing we can do is just not give people the capacity, especially our team and the space to do the work they're supposed to do that you're paying them for, like the cleaning lady.
Yes. And you made such an excellent point because what we're doing, we're taking on as the leader, we're taking on that role. We're overcompensating, we're overfunctioning, potentially also starting to resent that. And our team member feels and takes it on as though that he or she's not trusted.
Yeah, it's true.
So now everybody's self-doubting at the end of the day.
And then it's a vicious cycle.
Yes.
So who exactly who's your avatar?
Well, I do work with both men and women, but primarily I'm working with high achieving women because what I have found is that many women will self-doubt and they will not believe that they're capable of achieving all the things that they want. So, we're talking entrepreneurs. I work with therapists. I work with doctors, lawyers, the whole gamut. It's really about where are you holding yourself back? And as a high performer, that happens, I think, more often than not because everything tends to be measured by accomplishment, and we tend to lose sight of how am I showing up that allows those accomplishments to happen. So if everything is measured through accomplishment, then it's all external versus shifting it to an intrinsic place where I know that I'm worthy. I know that I'm enough. But beyond that, we start dialing into our own value system, right? So I know my values, and if I'm in alignment with my values, I'm capable of achieving all of those things. So now I'm not externally measuring my worthiness. It's all coming from the inside out.
I love that. And what has gotten me kind of to this next level of me, and especially in coaching, is in understanding that someone's worth isn't about what they do, but who they are. And if that's the filter that we can all play by and look at, like this lens that we can see the world, then all of a sudden you're starting to see people for who they are.
Yes.
Like they might not be millionaires, but they could be making whatever their income is and be completely content and happy and contributing to society and have a good, happy home life.
Yep.
Right. And like the original patriarchy way of looking at success was money, lots of friends, fancy trips, big houses, which are great. Sure, if you got them. But when you're looking at somebody for what they do and not who they are, it's not good.
Yeah. You lose sight of just the person who's in front of you, who's sitting in front of you. Who are you in relationship with? Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
It's not their accomplishments.
No, exactly. And my challenge this past weekend in meeting like 90 new female entrepreneurs, we literally get on this boat and then we're like boated out to this island in the middle of nowhere. It felt like a game of survival. We thrived. And I was like, hey, Renee, the easy question that we always ask somebody we don't know is, what do you do? Right? What do you do? And it's important maybe for these interviews. But I was like, hey, Renee, maybe the question you need to ask these people is, what is something that you're working on right now that excites you?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, I get to choose the thing that I'm extremely passionate about now to share to this person I don't know. And it's really interesting. Half the women talked about projects within their organization or whatnot. And the other half of the women talked about something that had nothing to do with work, because we're more than what we do.
Yes.
And we have to remember that.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that question.
Yeah.
What do you do that excites you?
Yeah. What are you doing now that excites you? I'm like, what's exciting you that you're working on over the next 6 months? And in asking that question, it opened up the floor for them to give me the response they wanted to give me, not what they think I wanted to hear. And then my response to them, because they're like, because they always say, what about you? It's like, oh, I'm going to actually talk about the thing I'm passionate about, right? Like I pretty much went the whole weekend barely even talking about business that makes me money, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, you do this. Yeah, that's what I do, but it's not who I am. Yeah, it's very fascinating. I love it. This week's episode with the incredible Kamani Wood is brought to you by my coaching program. My one-on-one coaching is a great way to start or grow your business. It doesn't make sense to start an entrepreneurial journey without the help of an expert. I grew my agency to $1 million with a coach. Even coaches have coaches. The first steps to launching and growing your business can be intimidating and frustrating. Feelings of imposter syndrome, worry, and doubt creep over you like your first time public speaking. Sometimes you'd rather hide under a rock. Well, that rock won't make you successful. My one-on-one coaching is designed to help female entrepreneurs and those looking to reach their first $1 million in revenue get started the right way, so that you can create, launch, and build a wildly successful business that works for your lifestyle. So if you're a wild woman looking for an experienced entrepreneur to help provide direction, accountability, and light a fire under your butt, then check out my coaching program at wewildwomen.com/coaching. That's wewildwomen.com/coaching. Okay, so what do you think it means to play small, especially female entrepreneurs or the high-performing women that you work with? And what strategies do you have that help women dream bigger and follow through on their plan?
So I do think that the way that people end up playing small is by not paying attention to their own needs, their own wants, their own desires, losing track of those, not giving themselves permission to even name them from themselves. Because what happens is they will then dim their own light and they will defer to what somebody else wants or needs. And that's, I think, what ends up happening a lot with women in general. It's, oh, I don't know what I want. What do you want? We do this even like with dinner. Like, oh, I don't know what I want to eat. What do you want to eat? Which sounds silly to use as an example with playing small, but that's actually what we're doing. We're dimming our light because we're not actually saying, what I really want tonight is like, Italian, and putting that need out there.
It's made me hungry. So true.
And so that's when I think of playing small, what comes to mind is dimming your light, putting your needs, your desires on that back burner and allowing everybody else in front of you to go first. And it's not a selfish perspective to say, I'm going to make my needs and my desires known. It's actually a very self-full process. And so really what I suggest that people do is taking that time to coming back home to what's really important to me, like in terms of values, like what do I actually value? What are my beliefs? And then what do I authentically need? And I don't just mean in business. I'm talking about in life in general. What do I need in my relationships? What do I need in my personal world? And then yes, what do I need in my professional world? And really name those, because when we put them out there for ourselves first and foremost, now we can take action to speaking them to other people. When we don't even know them for ourselves, we're automatically going to play small because we don't even know what we want.
So true. And it could just be one thing, like start with one thing.
One thing.
And I will say this to add to what you just said, because that was beautiful, is that because we think of some of these things as maybe selfish or unproductive. Mm-hmm. And for example, me going to CrossFit, my favorite time of day to go is at noon because it breaks up my day. Yep. And for years I'd go and I felt so guilty because I was like, oh, I should be working on this, or maybe I should be doing that. But when I actually started to identify going to the gym as being incredibly productive for whatever component in my life I'm considering it for, parenting, being a good partner, entrepreneurship, it all of a sudden became a thing that I needed to do. And it filled me up. And I actually became, quote, unproductive if I didn't go.
Yes. Yes.
Or it's like my alone time. I'm like an introvert. I like being alone. And my family knows this. I'm like, oh, my mom has alone time, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour. Yep. And it took years to convince my husband to actually be okay with this because he's the opposite. He needs people and stuff and noise and all this.
Right.
Now I respect that. And I don't feel guilty because I know it's productive for me to have the things I need, because guess what happens after that alone time? I can connect with my kids better. I'm more focused. My nervous system is relaxed. I'm more touchy and loving with my husband. And he's like, oh, like it's productive alone time. It's productive time in the gym.
Yes.
It's not
absolutely.
Selfish.
It's not selfish. It's very selfful. What you're describing is taking these selfful acts, and then those contribute to these deeper connections with the people who are important in your life. That's so important.
It seems so simple too. And I find like men already do this.
They just naturally do it because they're just like, bye, I'm out.
Yeah. Peace.
And there's no guilt. There's no guilt. And I do think that moms, we do have the internal mom guilt, right? Because there's the, well, maybe I should be spending time with my kids, or maybe I need to take care of this. And here's the thing. With mom guilt, I just own it. Sometimes it's just radical acceptance. We just have to accept we're going to have those pangs of mom guilt, and we just come to terms with the fact that it exists. And also, I can take care of myself. I can do these things for myself, because when I do these things, to your point, I show up in a more loving, connected way with my children.
Yeah. Or a loving, connected way with your team or clients or customers. Like if you're always on edge and your nervous system is like overworked, that's not good for anybody. And like over time, it's actually bad on your health. And if you're not healthy, you cannot be the best version of yourself.
So true.
Right?
So true.
So all this to say is being selfish is the most selfless thing you can do.
I like how you put that.
Then we'll over time, we'll change that quote once actually we start taking time for ourselves and doing the things that we love to do. But right now, most women, and I'm seeing a shift, but many women, they think that, time away from the kids is very selfish of them. Like, how dare they do that? It's like, actually, if your kids can see mama's doing something that lights her up, then that's a great example that you're setting for them.
It's an amazing example that you're setting for them, because what you're able to show them, well, you're showing them through your actions, and it's not just words, right? Because if we say, oh, you should take care of yourself, you need to make yourself a priority, you need to do all these things, you need to respect yourself, don't just follow your friends, right? Don't follow your peers. Those are words. But if they never see us taking care of ourselves, it's like, oh, there's a disconnect, right? So it's so about showing them, not just saying it.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, you just made me feel guilty of all the things. It's like every morning I make my kids a super healthy breakfast, and then they'll see me eating like granola bars because I'm like, go, go, go.
Go, go, go.
Yeah. So be the example.
I admit I've done the same. So,
So, I mean, all these concepts are easy to talk about. And, and we read about them, we hear about them on podcasts and books, whatever. We talk about it with our girlfriends. What does it actually take to follow through on this plan?
I mean, to be as blunt as possible, it takes commitment to self. Truly, honestly, it's not just about reading information. We can all do that. You're absolutely right. We can read books, we can listen to podcasts, but unless we're really committed to ourselves and we want to keep our word to ourselves and we're ready to do that work, nothing actually shifts. I've talked to many people about this. And one of the things that I will say when I'm talking to a potential client is, how ready are you for this? Because you have to be willing to do the work. It's not easy. If it were easy, we would all have done it already. It's about recognizing that, yes, it's going to be work, but there's so much on the other side of it. And here's the thing, we don't have to do it all in a day. We can take it one small step at a time, because small steps will compound and become larger shifts and changes.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's right.
It's the baby steps. And I appreciate that you say that, because it is about like, is now the time, right? Is now the time to do this. And I think if people are working with you, they've committed because they're invested in that process. And I will say this, knowing about even business. So if there's any part of you as a listener who's like, I need this change, whether it's with like Kamini for life coaching or business, whatever it is, what you pay for, you pay attention to. And I even have a company that I'm invested in. I've wrote a check and I invested in this company, and they're like, we need PR help. And I was like, well, I can teach you who to hire, or maybe I can do it for you. But if I do it for you, I need you to pay me. And they're like, well, that's weird. I go, no, it's not weird, because you pay attention to what you pay for. And why I'm saying this is because I'm not trying to like push your life coaching services and the programs, incredible programs that you have But if anybody wants to make that change, the evolution, level up to their next version of themselves, think about how you can invest money, your own money, into a program, because that's where change happens. I know I spend $200 a month on CrossFit. And if I don't go, that's like, it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
I'm already committed. But that exchange could be $1, it could be $10, it could be $20. Like, invest the money. Maybe it's like a group of friends. Hey, here's the thing. Here's a change I want to make. Because it absolutely is one of the easier ways to commit, right?
Absolutely. Because what you're doing is this is going to sound funny to say, but you're not just investing in yourself, but you're betting on yourself, right? Because you're putting money on it.
So true. I like that. I don't know. Some days I wouldn't bet on me. I'm just joking. I bet on me every day.
Bet on yourself every day.
Yeah, I would bet on me for many things. I love that. And, ask me 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. So what do you bet on yourself every day? Like, what's something you're committed to every day?
Just like you, I'm an introvert. So I bet on myself every day when it comes to like just alone time and taking care of myself. But every day showing up for my business is a bet on myself. First of all, I'm passionate about what I do. But second of all, that is how I invest, not just in myself, but I invest in continuing to grow my personal business. Like, we're entrepreneurs, right? So it's, how are you going to show up for yourself each and every day? Well, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the work that I need to continue to grow my practice. Why? Because I'm betting on myself.
I love it. Okay. 2 final questions. What do you believe it takes to overcome imposter syndrome?
In short and sweet, it's awareness. Because I think once you have awareness of what the story is, then it's a choice point. You get to choose. Do I continue with this story that's no longer serving me, or am I ready to write a new one?
Write a new story or a new chapter in the book. Maybe it's a new paragraph. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. So one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that for you?
A wild woman. And I know you mentioned that you gave me an idea of what a wild woman is, but for me, a wild woman is somebody who is willing to own exactly who they are and not hide behind a mask any longer.
I love that. So let's take off our masks. Yeah, let's take those off, right? Maybe I shouldn't have put on makeup today. Circle moment.
Full circle. I love it. Yeah. I love that.
Well, it kind of reminds me. So this past weekend, I don't know if it was planned, but like the last night of this Camp Tailwind for female entrepreneurs, there were 80 to 90 women in this room. And part of it was like this woman named Brooke. She's incredible. Was teaching us how to like dance in like a sensual way, but not for anybody else, but for ourselves. And she started by doing a demo. And I was like, wow, it was super sexy. I'm like, I know my body doesn't move in that manner, but I'm going to give it a shot. And then as everyone was trying, all of a sudden now this dance broke out and everyone was just dancing. And that was when the playlist started. And we felt like we were at someone's wedding. It just kind of happened. And it went on till 2 a.m. I didn't stay up that late. But I took a moment to pause and I looked around the room and like some of these women I've known for a little bit, some are new faces to me. And I like, you can see like all of this pressure coming off. The masks were coming off as women. They were just moving in the way that their body moves, that they feel like, and it's just dancing and music is so powerful. It's so powerful. And now whenever I'm brainstorming or working and excited about something, I will get up and dance and move because it allows me to take this mask off and just be creative and silly. But how much fun was that? Because looking at these women, whom some of them I admire, and I was like, that's not the person I know. I'm like, wow, she's fun. Or wow, she has those moves. Or wow, she's just like in a Zen moment right now and she's loving this.
She's in alignment with herself. Yeah. That's what I'm hearing you describe. Totally. Being just in alignment with yourself without any other stories, any other masks, anything else. It's just you and yourself. I love that.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So if people want to go online to find you, where can they go?
I am on the web at kamaniwood.com, KAMINIWOOD.com. And then also Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest with the handle, it's AuthenticMe.
Oh, I love it. Well, Kamini, it has been an amazing conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time: the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.